Good morning. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. This is a prayer of peace and a prayer of forgiveness, and it goes out to the dreamers and to the seekers of spirit, to the soft-spoken, as well as the outspoken singers of life, to the wanderers and to the worshipers, to the darkness and the light, to the open ones and to the broken ones among us beneath the stars above, beloved, given in care and in compassion for one another, soul level deep, in good times and in tempest, in conflict and in consensus, held whole and honored by a love that knows no bounds. Let no single heart from out the whole be gone from us, not gone from the widening circles of our affection, but held whole and honored by a love that knows no bounds. To all souls I say, good morning. It is good to be together. At the last minute, Tatum discovered that he could not be with us this morning. Graciously, David Fryman will be leading Kids Club in his absence. Tatum was supposed to be in the pulpit today, but he was going to offer a reflection on foolishness. So I'm not surprised that he chose me as the substitute. To introduce his service, he wrote these words for us. They say, a child's mind is the Buddha's mind, but is the enlightened mind really that silly? What do we risk by acting foolishly? And what is there to gain? Tatum is brilliant. I cannot possibly offer his insights this morning. I am only able to offer some of my own. We can hear from Tatum at a different time. Good morning, everyone. There is a special joy this morning here at North Chapel. We had a potluck dinner last night and it was awesome. I can still smell the smells of all the good food, the good spirit, the soul food, lowercase s. We ate and we laughed and we played bingo. Laszlo and Mary were calling out the numbers. It was great fun. It's one of my favorite parts of church. I grew up eating spaghetti dinners at church, spaghetti dinners with watery tomato sauce on flimsy paper plates. It was disastrous. I managed to spill all over myself last night, but that's a different story. I loved our potluck and our bingo party. I'm pretty sure that we saved the world last night. One of my mentors growing up was a man named Arvid Straube, who happens to have one of the best names I've ever heard in the world. Arvid Straube was a minister and the Reverend of the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Durham, North Carolina. Been in New England for a while, so now everything's starting in New Hampshire. Arvid had this little, what they call like a pouchy belly. What is it? A bay window. A bay window. Never heard that before, but I'll take it. Arvid had a belly like my friend John Eartha and like my friend Rolly Greeley. I'll tell you about them later. I was just texting with Rolly Greeley's granddaughter this morning. She is family to me. Anyway, Arvid got his belly from eating too many spaghetti dinners at church, and it just filled him up. I said, do you go to all the dinners? And he pulled out his shirt. So it was really funny to watch. We have a couple of announcements. Are there any announcements other than the one I know? Do you want to come on up, Mary? Are there any other announcements? I know Mary has one. And David, come up after Mary, okay?
Good morning. Today is the first day of our stewardship pledge drive, and I hope you all will consider to be generous this year as you pledge. So our pledges are the biggest part of our church budget. Others are fundraisers, rentals, Sunday collection, and 5% investment income for our investments in the endowment. So I would like to read for you today, and as we begin this, words by a minister, John Wolfe, who's the minister emeritus of a church in Tulsa. And these are his thoughts about why he's a Unitarian Universalist, and it mirrors my own. There is only one reason for joining a Unitarian Universalist church, and that is to support it. You want to support it because it stands against superstition and fear, because this church points to what is noblest and best in human life, because it is open to women and men of whatever race, creed, color, place of origin, or sexual orientation. You want to support a Unitarian Universalist church because it has a free pulpit, because you can hear ideas expressed there which would cost any other minister his or her job. You want to support it because it's a place where children come without being saddled with guilt or terrified of some celestial peeping Tom, where they can learn that religion is for joy, for comfort, for gratitude and love. You want to support it because it's a place where walls between people are torn down rather than built up, because it is a place for the religious displaced person of our times, the refugees from mixed marriages, the unwanted free thinkers, and those who insist against orthodoxy that they must work out their own beliefs. You want to support a UU church because it is more concerned with human beings than with dogma, because it searches for the holy rather than dwelling upon the depraved, because it calls no one a sinner, yet knows how deep is the struggle in each person's breast and how great is the hunger for good. You want to support a UU church because it can laugh, because it stands for something in a day when religion is still more concerned with platitudes than prejudice and war. You want to support it not because it buys you some insurance policy towards your funeral service, but because it insults neither your intelligence nor your conscience, and because it calls you to worship what is truly worthy of your sacrifice. There is only one reason to join a Unitarian Universalist church: to support it. Thank you. The pledge letters were mailed yesterday, so they'll be in your mailbox soon. Thanks.
Good morning, and if you're not on our mailing list, the letters and forms are in the back of the church on the table, as will be these beautiful posters. Once again, it's hash time. Next Sunday after the service, please join Ann Winia in peeling 60 pounds of potatoes in the kitchen, and there's other things that she needs if you're not interested in doing that are on the back page of your bulletin. And I have posters here I'd like to distribute. Mary got a few for Barnard and there's a few going to Queechy, but I'm gonna put them on the back table for you to grab on the way out and hang on the bulletin boards in your community. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm David Fryman. A few weeks ago I mentioned that I'm going to be leading a group called the Parents and Caregivers as Primary Sex Educators. It's a program for parents to look back on your own religious, sex education training that you received and how that might impact your own children and how you're parenting. I ran this very successfully in New York City during the pandemic, and we had parents who had kids from the youngest to teenagers, and it was great to hear the insights of all of those people. It's really, it can be done as a self-guided course. We'll send out a link to the curriculum on the UUA website, but it's much better to do it in a group and hear what other people have to say and hear the quite wide variety of how people are raising their children and what their own backgrounds were. So I welcome all of you next weekend. We'll be starting it after the service, and there will be childcare provided.
I would like to opening words for this morning with a few words about justice. Not my words, but the words of a writer from Ghana whose name is Ayi Kwe Arma. He wrote these words in 1969. He wrote, "Disgust with injustice may sharpen the desire for justice. Readers who don't see this connection may merely wish to be entertained, and have neither the skill nor the desire to turn the agony of a people, and I have neither the skill nor the desire to turn the agony of a people into entertainment." These words could be written today. They were useful for us today. Sometimes, some of us simply cannot turn away from the violence and the injustice that we see happening in the world. Other times, others of us simply cannot turn to face the violence that we see happening in the world. I know and I live both of these stations in life. We know and we live both of these stations in life. It is a complexity. It is a paradox. And it is surprising, but it is not new. In fact, there's an old country blues song about paradox. When the singer sings, "Oh, there are days when I fall, and there are days when I rise above. But there's nothing that I've found to stop my going down except the hope for the Lord to provide." And there are people who turn from salvation, and there are those that know him by name. Hold no pride in either place. Hold no pride in either place. So it's theological for sure. It's about God in a formal way, in the masculine representation of God. But the beauty of that passage lies in the ability to not hold station, especially station against someone else, for what you yourself believe. The ability to see the beauty that shines through all of us, and equally. Sufficiently injured, we seem to turn away from salvation itself sometimes, or turn away from what we've been told is salvation. This is what I hear coming through those words that you expressed, Mary, although I've never heard the phrase celestial peeping Tom before. But we do not turn away lightly. We are on a journey of discovery, and we honor that journey. It is a truly beautiful thing that we can take that journey together. By what are you called forward in life? What graceful energy tucks you in night after sacred night? What light, beautiful and brave, bids you to rise day after sacred day, alone on a hill? A man with a foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. And nobody wants to know him. They can tell that he's just a fool, and he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head sees the world spinning round. Have you ever been the fool on the hill? I was a fool on the hill just last week in Maine. I went to lead a worship retreat with Sherry Mitchell and Tim DeChristopher at Wajulkum Tiltine, which is the name of their camp in Maine. I was one of the leaders of the men's retreat. That's the second time we've done it. It was great. This year we did a sweat lodge. I've never done a sweat lodge. Has anybody participated in a sweat lodge before? Or know what a sweat lodge is? Okay, so I should tell you, we built one. We gathered sort of smallish saplings, maybe 12 feet high, 15 feet high from the area woods, and we put them into 12 holes. I think it was 12 holes that were cut in a sort of large circle. And then the tallish men stood with their backs against the sapling and then bent them over so that we could tie them together so they could form a dome. Can you see that? Yeah. And then we dug a fire pit in the center of the dome, maybe about a foot deep, there was a little bowl in the fire pit this year. And then the dome is covered with blankets. At 5 a.m. in the morning, a.m. in the morning as opposed to a.m. in the afternoon. I just want to be clear. At 5 a.m. in the morning, we started a fire after having gathered about 30 stones, about this big, the grandfathers, they call them. And the stones are piled at the center of the fire and blessed with tamali, which is tobacco. And then a fire is built around these stones, and it's burned for several hours until the stones are really, really, really hot. And then one by one, they're carried by pitchfork into the sweat lodge, and the men were assembled outside and would gather inside in 2 concentric circles, and water is poured over the stones, and steam is released, which heats the sweat lodge as hot as the weakest among us can take it. The foolish part is you go in almost naked, so 40-year-olds were standing outside in their underwear on the hill at sunrise, and it was 40-some-odd degrees, so it felt foolish at first, which is absurd because this is a sacred ritual. It's a holy rite of passage, but there we were in our little skivvies, and one of the hippest among us was the fruit of the loom guy. Playfully and boyishly, we made fun of him. I hope that he comes to visit because I will introduce him as the fruit of the loom guy. But we gathered in mid-October on a hilltop in Maine, and we stood around waiting for a miracle to happen. What miracle it was, we did not know. What it would be for me, I did not know. I was afraid. I was afraid because I can be claustrophobic. I was afraid because I didn't know when it was going to start, how long it was going to be. I wasn't sure that I could make it to the end. As a leader in that circle, I wanted to be able to make it to the end. I didn't know if I could be. We did this sweat lodge in the Abenaki tradition, which stands for People of the Dawn. Right? So the orientation of the sweat lodge, the door of the sweat lodge was focused to the east, where the sun rises. And there was a sort of a crescent moon-shaped fire pit, maybe 15 feet in front of the front door. That's where the fire was burning. That's where the stones came. That's where the grandfathers entered the sweat lodge. And there's a sacred line that you don't cross, running between the crescent moon and the fire pit. It's the umbilical cord. And the dome can be seen to be a full circle. The upper part of which shows that the idea of the sweat lodge continues beneath the earth. It was very beautiful. Wujukum Tiltine means let's help each other. And that's what we tried to do when we gathered in that lodge. I ended up being super comfortable inside. I wasn't claustrophobic. It was highly emotional. It was beautiful. And it was a deeply respected practice. I accidentally, in my enthusiasm, in my nervousness, almost crossed that line, and someone very strongly, pushed me back. It was not a gentle, it was a pretty good strike. Don't break that line. It was beautiful to be with men in that way. It was beautiful to be together for that time, for the building of the fire, for the blessing of the grandfathers, the stones that were in the fire. As the stones were brought into the sweat lodge, more medicine, bare root, was rubbed on the hot stones, and they released a great aroma for us to enjoy. The wisdom of the grandfathers was speaking to us, and whole zones of knowledge that I could scarcely perceive and consciously knew very little about were calling to me from great distances of space and time. were calling to us from great distances of space and time, returning the secrets that we've been keeping from ourselves about how we can remain connected, understanding one another, even when we disagree. 4 hours we spent inside that lodge, almost 4 hours. 4 comfortable, miraculous hours. Within my bloodline, I have Cherokee and Arawak. Arawak are the people of South America and the Caribbean. Those parts of me felt connected to this work. And if those parts of me were not in my bloodline, I would have felt as connected to that work. One family we are. Made weak by time and fate, but strong by will. I'll go back again at the end of the month for a forgiveness ritual called Healing Turtle Island. I'll tell you more about that when I learn more about that, but there'll be a nice gathering at the end of November. I would have arranged Fools on the Hill for my singing group. I had a singing group back in college. I would have thought to arrange it because I like the way it moves. We took the song from the key of D to the key of C, starts on the C6 and goes to a suspended chord into the major 7. And then the chorus comes in on the minor, C minor, with the flat 6, with the A flat, which is great because it prepares the dominant 7th chord that follows. There was a reunion of my singing group happening in Belfast, Maine at the same time as this men's retreat. So I was in a singing group at Tufts University. We were called the Beelzebubs. We were corny, overly dressed, terminally educated, obnoxious. We sang, we were charming too. It's real, it's what we sold. I'm not kidding. We sang songs like Chattanooga Choo Choo and Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Bluebird, which I arranged, Bandstand, which was one of my favorites. We were at a party when we were still in high school, still in college, and we were posing for a picture at the party, midway through, maybe a couple hours in. And someone was taking the picture, said, "Make a face," and I put on some strange face. I can't remember what face I was making, but one of the guys looked at my face and said something that he regretted. He said, "Leon's got his big bad N-word look on." Okay, I'm not going to repeat the word, but the N-word, you know what it is? Leon's got his big bad look on. Okay. And I was highly offended. I got up, ready to strike him, which I'm not proud of, but I was. And Will Elias said no. Will is maybe 30 pounds heavier than I am, but he's a black belt, and he does not kid around. So I knew I couldn't get by him, so I just turned, stayed at the party for as long as I could, but then I left. That word and the history of that word shatters the sacredness of American culture when we let it. It's offensive, yes, but more importantly, it shatters American sacredness when we let it. Those who choose to use it choose to shatter American sacredness. It pulls us away, gravely, away from whole zones of knowledge that we scarcely perceive and consciously know so very little about. It pulls us away from the wisdom that calls us from great distances of time and space. Not counting the self-defense work that I've done for 11 years, I've been in 7 fights in my life, all for the same reason. My mother told me, if someone calls you the N-word, deck them. That's my mom. She looks cute. That's so I don't get in trouble if she sees this. I did what she told me to do 7 times. I've thrown 7 punches in my life. I have won 6 fights. The last time I got destroyed by an older kid who was very much larger than me. He took me down. He didn't get the better of me. He crushed me pretty bad. I was better friends with his brother back in the day, but I don't know either of them anymore, and I know a lot of people from my childhood. Something shattered between us. I was raised to be a fool for justice, what can I say? So there I am at the men's retreat, as it was taking place, and my singing group from Tufts is having a reunion in Belfast, Maine, just 30 minutes away, at the home of the guy who had offended me. And I'm invited, by the way, I'm invited. We're brothers in song. I've seen him many times since. We've hugged, we've never had a serious conversation about it. But we've gotten over the part of it that we could. It happened in '86. It seemed silly not to go. It seemed inauthentic not to go. If I didn't go, I would be leading a men's retreat about healing and forgiveness while not practicing these things myself and ignoring my own men's group. So we go through hard things in life. It isn't easy. It's just life. Sometimes we disagree with one another, and sometimes we disagree profoundly. We sing and we dance about it. The poet and the artist, Janice Ian, writes, "You called it love, and I called it greed. You say you take what you want. I said you get what we need." We disagree with one another, it's simply true. But there is time enough for healing, and forgiveness is possible if we are willing to be a little bit foolish. I'll close with this story. At camp at Star Island, when I was about 17 or 18, we were real big fans of cursing at each other. We loved to use vulgar language. When we went away to camp, we could do it, we wouldn't get in any trouble. So we did that for a couple of years, and then there was another conference of people who, we were 15 to 22, and there was an older conference of about 60 and above. And the 60 and above conference said, "You know what, we're really getting tired of hearing you guys curse and swear so much. You need to stop it, you know." So we came up with alternatives so that we wouldn't have to use the vulgar word, but we could still express those feelings. And when we did that, the older folks could still feel it. And they still complained. So we decided to have an absolutely silent meal to show our respect and our deference to their wishes, and to recognize that we hadn't done as well as as they had requested. We hadn't respected what they had asked. We'd found a workaround. And about 10 minutes into the meeting, we wore socks into the dining hall. I mean, there was was it Sky who had the wooden shoes on? Which was great. Walking around. We made no sound walking in to the dining hall. And we made we tried to keep our silverware from touching each other. Once we were halfway through the meal, John Eartha and Rolly Greeley got a plan. Rolly Greeley was, I think, the brother of Dana McLean Greeley. Dana McLean Greeley was the first president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We merged, the Unitarians and the Universalists merged in 1961. Dana McLean Greeley was the first president of that organization. Rolly is his brother, I believe. And Rolly had the same potbelly that Arvid Straube did. So, frustrated that we were not speaking at all, they went to the front of the dining hall and they lifted up their shirts over their bellies and they screamed down the center aisle of the dining hall, "Say something!" I will never forget that. That part of us that wants to make sure that we're not too vulgar, that part of us that wants to be respectful of different communities and different needs, that part of us that remembers how to be foolish and absurd in order to rediscover something that keeps us in the sacred place. So in honor of those we've lost, in honor of those beautiful ones who are not yet born, can we take on the task of trying a little harder to understand those who are different from us, to be not less just, but maybe just a little less righteous, softer. We'll have to take the lead on this. We'll be out in front. We'll be the fools on the hill trying to make a difference, but it will pay off in time. Maybe so. Blessed be. And amen.